Happy Wednesday, Dharma Circle. Swati here, the Embodied Dharma Coach. Let's talk about you as a contract worker and how to get the support that you need. So, are you working alone? Here's how to tell and how to restructure your contract with your ancestors so that you can start getting your needs met. Most people on a dharmic path don't even realize that they have ancestral support ready and waiting to help them with their path and purpose so that you can feel more fulfilled and successful and prosperous. You need your ancestral team on board. So if you don't know that you have an ancestral team and you're not utilizing their support, then you're not going to have full support. You're not going to have the guidance. You're not going to have the ease, the extra padding, if you will. And also the path won't be clear. The problem with not having your ancestral team on board is that the path becomes very unclear, uncertain. Your purpose and what you're here to accomplish might feel vague, or you might not understand what your mission even is. And so when you're a contract worker, and by the way, you can go listen to last week's class about are you a contract worker? Here's how to tell. If you are a contract worker, it's non-negotiable. You have to have ancestral support. You have to have your team in place. And this is the change that makes everything easier. And I've seen it time and time again. It's certainly been the case for me on my path and with my dharmic mission. Because there is no Dharma without the ancestors. So if you are a Dharma worker and you have a very specific mission that you are here to accomplish, you need the ancestral support in order to make sure that you stay in alignment with your path, your purpose, and your mission, and that you have the proper support in place to help you fulfill the mission. It doesn't have to be so hard. And I see so many people struggling. And as soon as I hear someone say, I'm not clear on what my path and my purpose is, or what are my gifts, that is a clear indication you're not working with your ancestors. You don't have your team in place. And as a result, the Dharma that your lineage has handed you is just not clear. So when you're under contract with your ancestors, and all of us are actually under contract with our ancestors, it just so happens that when you're a contract worker, you have a different quality of commitment and focus, and the dharmic path is more specific to reestablishing Dharma in the lineage. So wherever there's been adharma in the lineage, your Dharma and you as contract worker are here to reestablish the Dharma in the lineage and clean up any of that adharma that has been causing problems intergenerationally. So we first of all need to know, am I a contract worker? And okay, if I know I'm a contract worker, then how do I work with the ancestors and have them support me more fully in this work that I'm doing? Then we can talk about restructuring the contract. Now, if you're a contract worker, you cannot sever this contract. That is actually dangerous. It could literally kill you because you're here under contract. So without that contract, you wouldn't be here. Not a good idea. So we are working with the ancestors under contract, and we can restructure the contract in order to make it work better for us. That you can do. And that's what we're going to talk about today, how to restructure that contract. Most of you don't even know you're under contract, let alone how to restructure the contract. So this is really important for those of you who want more ease, more prosperity, more healing, more vitality, more transformation on your path, and you want to do it with less struggle and less pain and less suffering, or how to move through a cycle of struggle and pain and hardship with more ease and gentleness. That's where your ancestors come in, and can really help you, support you, and guide you in this process so it's easier. And by the way, if you want to do more of this work and have more specific clarity of what your contract is, how your ancestral karma and trauma is impacting you, join my Embodied Jyotish Self Study process. And you can just comment Jyotish below, and I'll share those details with you. This is the last week to join. We still have a couple spots available. Comment Jyotish below, and I'll give you all the details. So, are you working alone? When was the last time you asked your ancestors to guide you and protect you? Specifically, your ancestors. When was the last time you asked them for a raise? Do you know the dollar amount that you need? And are you being clear with your ancestors about what you need financially? When was the last time you asked to restructure your ancestral contract so it works more in your favor? So it's more about what do I need, not just giving and doing and going through the pain and the hardship, but have you created a contract that is really about you and your needs? Guess what? You get to restructure this so that it works more in your favor. It doesn't have to be all about doing their labor for them without reciprocity. And that's what most people are missing. They think that this life and the challenges that you're going through are really about you and only you. And I have news for you. It's not about you at all. In fact, most of what you're dealing with in this body and in this life, whether it's through relationships or money or health problems, or what is my path? What is my purpose? All of this is ancestral work. And the way that I invite my clients to look at the chart when we start doing this embodied approach to Vedic astrology is you're literally looking at the chart, the Jyotish chart, as though you're looking at the ancestral body. Yes, this is your chart and a map of your karmas. But guess what? 75% of your karma is ancestral. So this is epigenetic. It's handed to you from your ancestors. The karma, the traumas, the grief work, the disconnections, the challenges. It's all handed to you from your ancestors and your lineage. Also, your gifts, your wisdom, your ability to share your knowledge and wisdom, this embodied knowing, your creativity, your self expression, all of these qualities are also ancestral and they are handed to you from your lineage. This is embodied knowledge and wisdom, and it's lineage. It's lineage gifts and lineage challenges. So when you're looking at your Jyotish chart, you should be looking at this map of your body like, this is also a map of the ancestral body. This is the culmination of generations of what was turned on and what was turned off. Now, with consciousness, more consciousness, and this is why we study Vedic astrology, is bringing more consciousness, more light to these parts of ourselves so that we can turn on with consciousness what we want more of, and with consciousness turn off what we don't want to perpetuate or continue to create in the lineage. You, as a contract worker, are very important. You play a very important role in activating the Dharma of the lineage and closing the doors or cutting off the channels of the adharma. And you might be the only one in your family currently doing this, but you play a very important role in this creating and cultivating Dharma in the lineage so that it can have more prana, life force, and continue to grow and perpetuate. So don't miss this piece, especially if Dharma is what you're here to do and you know that. You want to live a path of Dharma, meaning wholeness, body and soul wholeness, sharing your gifts and wisdom in this world, being prosperous in this process of sharing your gifts and wisdom. You will need your ancestral team in order to be successful in this mission. So that's step number one. And the other piece is restructuring the contract. So, do you know how to safely restructure the contract that you're in? First of all, you need to understand what kind of contract you're under. You have a contract with your ancestors and your lineage. This is specifically for Dharma and dharmic purposes, to restore Dharma in the lineage. So pay attention to that. That's your number one priority and your number one commitment. And being able to identify what's working and what's not working is really important with this contract. And you can go to them and say, this isn't working for me. There's another kind of contract, though. We have relational contracts. And often a love partnership or a marriage partnership is actually a contract with the ancestors as well. And if you're a contract worker, you need to be really careful about getting hired by your partner's ancestors to then do the cleanup and the dharmic work for both lineages. And I see this happen all the time. If you are a contract worker, you need to be very careful that you're not going to be used, that your efforts and your work, your dharmic efforts and your dharmic work aren't going to be used and taken advantage of. And this happens a lot. It happens more times than you realize. In fact, most of the relationships out there, the marriage contracts or relational contracts, are ancestors who are hungry for a contract worker to do the work because no one is doing it. And this is where we see contract workers burn out. They end up having to do way more work than they should. Then they have kids with this individual and now they're locked in. That's a contract you cannot sever. Once you have children, there's no severing of that contract. There is no parting ways. There is no moving on, because the most solid contract that can be created is when a child is brought into the world. That is a forever contract. Okay, you have a responsibility and a duty, and yes, it's also dharmic. But what happens is these contract workers will, unbeknownst to them, fall in love with someone whose ancestors are hungry for someone to do the work. And as a result, the contract worker ends up having to do the grief work and the cleanup for both lineages. It happens all the time. When you divorce, this is the contract being restructured and the grief work starts to move. Hopefully, there's a lot of grief that moves, and this lineage karma and trauma and grief starts to be purged and move. But that's not always the case. Sometimes one person's doing the grief work and the other person's not doing any grief work. And typically this falls on the contract worker. So you want to be very careful who you're in relationship with. And first of all, that the ancestors are on board, that both ancestral teams are on board. I will say personally, I've had the experience where the other person's, the boyfriend's ancestors were hungry for me to do the work. They were latching on big time. My ancestors were not on board. They knew the work wasn't being done. They knew that I was the one that was going to have to do all the work and the labor. And so we severed the contract because the ancestors were not in agreement, and me as the contract worker said no. That story is still playing out and it's quite interesting. But it's very important that the contract worker is firm and clear in your contract, your agreement with your ancestors first and foremost. Secondly, what is my work to do? What is not my work to do? Be careful taking on someone else's work and labor that is not yours to do. Really important. And some of you are stuck in these dynamics right now where you're doing the work for someone else's lineage because that person has not shown up, has not taken the steps, is not taking an active role in their lineage work, their grief work, or their trauma work. If you're in a dynamic like that, remember, you can restructure the contract, and you should. And this is where you start giving ultimatums to the lineage and the ancestors and say, I'm no longer doing this for you. This was not in my original agreement. This is not in my contract. And I need to restructure this. And sometimes how that looks is we don't feed the ancestors until they make it right. But it comes from being very firm and clear in your own contract so that you can say, this is what I'm willing to do. This is not what I'm willing to do. Or this is what I was hired to do. I wasn't hired to do any of this for any of you. And that's your work to do. And I've seen this happen with marriages where the wife has to be that firm and clear with her husband's lineage and say, I'm not doing this work anymore, and that's his job. And if you don't get him to start doing the work, then I'm out because I'm not going to do this work for everyone. So you either get him to do the work or I'm done. And that can sometimes shake the ancestral team into action. You can also invite your partner to do their ancestral work and start to become aware of the ancestral work, and then remind them, that's between you and your ancestors. That's not in my contract. And I've seen partners get on board with this, and radical, incredible shifts can happen when it does, but it requires the contract worker being very firm and clear. Some of you are letting the ancestors get away with stuff, and you are doing work you should not be doing, and they're getting a free pass. If you're in relationships where it feels heavy, if it feels lopsided, if you are doing more than your fair share of the grief work and the healing work and the trauma work, this is an imbalanced contract. It's not okay. And it's up to you to restructure this and to be firm and clear in what you are willing to do and what you're not willing to do. So this is part of the restructuring. I would write this down. This should be very detailed. This should be an extremely detailed contract with your ancestors, to the point of what is financially, what do you need in order to fulfill this work, this contract? Every year I ask my ancestors for a raise. Every year I remind them, I ain't doing this for free. My dharmic work in this world requires a lot of compensation, because what I'm doing in this world is also to heal my lineage. So you see me as the Dharma coach, but that's really for my ancestors. All of this is for my ancestors to restore Dharma to the lineage. We are, both sides of my family, all sides of my family, we are a lineage of teachers and healers and guides. So I'm doing this for them. I'm doing this because of them. I'm doing it for them. And I want compensation for it. And I have a dollar amount. And every year I ask for a raise. And if I don't get the monthly needs met, I am definitely asking them to show up and help me and make sure that I can fulfill this contract and that I'm living well. Some of you need to be that firm and clear and that specific with your ancestors. This was the contract. I didn't sign up for this but I did sign up for this and I want compensation. I want to be well fed. I want to be taken care of. And that's what the contract required. And so I'm just reminding you of the contract. And what happens when we bring our ancestral team on board and we're in dialogue and we're asking for their guidance and support, we're reminding them of the contract, the stipulation of the contract. They show up very quickly to help us. And I've seen this with myself and my clients time and time again, that when your team is on board and you're working with the well ancestors, your needs get met very quickly. And that doesn't mean that there's not grief work to do. It doesn't mean there's not healing work to do. That is the ongoing work. But remember, all the grief work, all the healing work is ancestral grief work, ancestral healing work, ancestral trauma work. And you need them to help you with this. This isn't you doing all this work in labor alone. The grief is from them. You are the one to support the movement of the grief, but you need them to help you with this. And you get to be well compensated and supported in the process. When you start asking for their guidance and support and reminding them we're under contract, things start changing and moving very quickly. And I've seen this in my own life and with clients time and time again. Be firm and clear in your contract, write it out, every year reevaluate. What do I need? What's working? What's not working? Hey, you said you'd help me with this and I haven't seen it yet. Or I need a raise if I'm going to keep doing this for you. I can't do it anymore for so little compensation. Or for some of you, this is about reciprocity. You're doing all the work and your relationships are getting away with doing nothing or very little or the bare minimum. You're the one doing all the labor. It's not okay. And you must let your ancestors know you need their guidance and support in order to fulfill the contract, the mission, and the dharmic path, the purpose of the lineage. So that is something that I find contract workers and those on a dharmic path, they are absolutely unaware of this. They have no concept of the necessity for ancestral guidance and support, let alone how to restructure a contract that they're in. And of course, we can use Jyotish to strengthen this understanding. The karma is there. The disconnection and the trauma is there. The grief work is there. We can see it in your body and in your ancestral body. Do you want to deepen this understanding of your contract? Study your Jyotish chart. And study your Jyotish chart in an embodied way, because the answers are in your body. And the lineage issues are also body issues. It's never not the case. You don't randomly have body or health issues. These are ancestral issues. And you, as the contract worker, have to keep tending to the body, back to body, back to body, back to body. Why? Because the lineage did not tend to the body, and not in this way. So you are the one who must do that. And as you do that, you restore Dharma to the lineage. It's the same with money challenges, relationship challenges, or disconnection with what is my soul purpose. It's all from the ancestral body, disconnection in the ancestral body, and you, as the contract worker, are restoring the harmony. You're supporting the reconnection. If you want to do this work, join my Embodied Jyotish Self Study process. This is what we do. You have access to all of my resources, years of archived classes, and resources and tools to support your dharmic path, clarity for your path and your purpose, as well as business prosperity. It's all in the Dharma Foundations course when you join my Jyotish Self Study process. You have access to all of that. And you'll also get a session with me to just jumpstart how you use the map of your Jyotish chart in this way to support healing and transformation for you and your lineage. Comment Jyotish below. I'll send you all the details. Just know that Friday is the last day. I don't offer private Jyotish sessions with me, and this is a special bonus for those of you who join this process, the self-study process. I don't do this but a couple times a year. So if this is your time to strengthen your ancestral team and strengthen your lineage gifts and wisdom and support the healing and the transformation for you and your lineage, comment Jyotish below. Join my Jyotish self-study process and you'll get those resources and tools and support every step of the way. And you can join our monthly live class to get extra support as well. All right, comment Jyotish below. Remember to restructure those contracts, be firm and clear with your ancestors, and make your needs known. All right, be well, everyone, and take good care. And many blessings to you and your ancestors.